Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and once again it's time for a deadlift day. Today was a very short workout, less than 30 minutes, and it's simply because this was a very hard training week. I went in and just did a nice solid top set for reps on the deadlift, and then just did some posterior chain work and got out of there. Because again, the fatigue's been accumulating, my sleep is going way up. I slept like 10-11 hours last night. So again, keeping recovery on point with some of the volumes I'm doing just in terms of the rep work, because again, the deadlifting and benching for these limit sets every week, and then supplemental work, again, it's pretty tough. So again, I've got to be able to recover from all of it. So again, I have to watch this total training volume because again, a set like this, it takes a lot out of you. Takes a lot out of you. And I'm not going to get into any clapping back towards anything that's been said by other coaches out there. All I'm going to say is that on this style of deadlift, I'm pulling all my reps to be meet legal. I want them to all be full resets, right? I want them all pulled from having to re-engage everything, re-wedge the hips. Want nice, clean, solid reps. And that's how we know they count, and that's the thing when we're talking about are you chasing reps for performance, like just to count the number of reps, or are you actually trying to get reps that have a full training response to a carryover to your max, right? Are our reps consistent? Are they clean? Are they true reps, right? And when you do that, then you know that you're making progress, right? It's not about, hey, get as many reps as I can through any means necessary. It's, are these reps going to count? Are they going to be the same form I'm going to use on a max? And I think that's a big deal when we're talking about powerlifting, because at the end of the day, fatigue is fatigue, right? If you could cheat and get 5 more reps, but you still reach the same level of fatigue from a hypertrophy perspective, that's probably going to be pretty equal. But it's not going to be a good way to track progress, right? It's not going to be a good way for us to plug it into a calculator and then say, okay, this is where I'm ready to max at. Here's where I'm ready to PR, right? And we come over to the total fatigue. For deadlifts, for me, that's kind of a big deal. There's a reason I do it this way. It's harder. It is more difficult. Yes, it's obviously more difficult to get reps when you do these full resets, but we're getting a higher quality training stimulus per rep. We're getting a higher quality training stimulus, which also means we don't need as many reps to get the same thing because the axial loading mounts up. Again, you want to talk about recovery. Recovery is everything, and this is the one thing that I have found to hold true as a master's lifter. Everything is a fight for recovery and overuse. It really is. Your lifestyle gets more geared around that. We look at our training and go, can I reduce the total axial loading by performing these as harder reps, meaning, again, a meet legal type rep? Okay. Will that then make it easier to recover because I spent less time doing total reps with that heavy weight? Probably so. And then we can get over to our supplemental work and our restorative stuff like the reverse hypers. And for me, the thing I'm noticing, the grip is holding up better. All that rowing I'm doing, all the upper back work I'm doing on the upper body days, I feel like it's giving me great carryover now to my deadlifting. Now I'm noticing that the hamstrings really are becoming more and more of a limit. It's always been grip for me, and when I go to do maxes later, I might find the grip is still a problem. But as long as I keep hammering it, which I'm working the grip very hard, I'm hoping to eliminate that. But I'm noticing on the rep work, I feel like my hamstrings are starting to determine how many reps I get. They are becoming the limit. So I'm then pushing performance on those glute ham raises. All right, we're going to push performance on the glute ham raises because that has direct carryover. It is arguably, and again, I always say arguably because I don't like the idea of a quote-unquote best exercise, arguably about the best hamstring exercise you're going to have out there. And I find it really carries over to deadlifts, particularly if hamstrings are a weak link, right? Hamstrings are a weak link, the glute ham raise will work wonders. Because usually, unless it's a stability issue with your back or something else or a grip issue, it's going to tend to be hamstrings or glutes that really limit your top end deadlifts. Those are your big primary movers. And I'm not saying quads don't matter, but you could look at quads as, hey, the bigger quads I have, probably the faster I can pull it off the floor, right? But they don't tend to really be your limit. They're just kind of like icing on the top. The more quad you have, you probably will have a better deadlift, at least more potential, right? Just because of better overall force production, but rarely do they become the actual limit of, hey, if I just had more quad, unless you're sticking right off the floor, probably not. But that's not where I ever stick. But I'm definitely feeling the hamstrings are giving out on me. So, when people say, how are you knowing that is your last rep and you don't think you can pull another one? Because I feel on that last rep each time, when I feel the hamstrings trying to cramp, I feel like my hamstrings are almost pulling apart. That's when I know I've reached that limit, right? And so I have to keep working those hamstrings. Plus, I know from years ago when I didn't do hamstring work, remember when I had that really bad hamstring pull that you guys saw on camera and my whole leg turned black? Now, I still trained at deadlift over 500 a couple weeks later, but I wasn't doing any hamstring work. And so that tends to happen to me. So again, I always have to be mindful of that for me. And I generally know that, the bigger and stronger my hamstrings are, the better my deadlifts, right? I tend to get just better deadlifts overall. And in this case, I can definitely feel them starting to become a limit. So as I'm trying to get to that 700 and I want a full 700 raw deadlift, right, that's a goal I've set. Grip and hamstrings are really what's going to make or break me, because I feel like my glutes always get enough work. My glutes tend to always be strong and all my work carries over to them. So at the end of the day, it's what's going to stop me from getting a 700. It's either I'm not going to be able to grip it, or my hamstrings aren't going to be able to pull it through my sticking point, right, where the bar slows for me. So those are always going to be a big priority for me. And I know that about myself, and so we do that moving forward. And of course, everything else in the workout was knocking out those reverse hypers. Now, I counted 6 sets, but looking at the film, I think I hit a button wrong because it had an empty slot for the 7th one, or the 6th one. I thought that I got 6 sets of those in. But looking at the footage, I'm not sure. I'll have to go back and check later. But I did count 6 in training. So we did 2 sets of pretty much limit sets on glute ham raises, 6 sets of reverse hypers after that deadlift. And keeping in mind, the training response off of that deadlift is enormous. Quite frankly, I feel like that set alone, I would still probably gain a tiny amount of muscle just from having done it. But we still want to come behind. We want to shore up those weak links. I want to get the reverse hypers in because of the restorative effect, keeping my back healthy, right? So we want to do all those things afterwards whenever possible. And this was a good deadlift session. I feel like it's productive. I feel like I pretty much have a max PR in the tank if I were to go for one, but I want to keep moving it forward. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I'll talk to you guys next time.